All right, guys, I am here with the man, Chris Taylor from Financial Fitness. Chris, how you doing today?
Good, brother. How are you?
I am very good, thanks. And I've been talking on my channel a lot, especially during my live streams. I've been recommending to people to go out and start developing a basic skill, and a lot of that comes from you know all the hyperinflation talk and everything else, and really it harkens back to that presentation that Joe Brown gave at the Speak Freely event with Ninja Nation in Dallas, talking about how society is starting to shuffle the way it values skill sets, and that the more sophisticated skills are no longer as valuable as skills more towards like basic production. Like, well, everything you do, man. I mean, you're the whole package. You got the welding thing. I mean, I'm looking at this machine shop and this monster lathe you got behind you right now.
Yeah.
I've seen your homesteading videos, your tractor setup, that rig that you made. My father was blown away by that rig that you made that lays down the plastic with the drip tape underneath it and even piles the dirt up alongside. I mean, that stuff was just amazing. And in a hyperinflationary scenario, what you have going on is like perfect, the perfect skill set. So
Well,
I'm thinking more, say your average underwater basket weaver, if you will, which by the way, Chris, I said that a lot on my channel now. I got that from Chris. I totally stole that line. Your average office dweller like me, right? A guy spends all day in front of a computer. I'm not going to go out overnight and become a homesteader. So how do I start? How do I start developing that skill set?
believe it or not, Jack, I never planned on being a farmer either. I just kind of had to learn how. And you're right about getting started now because your first garden, you're going to fail at a lot of things. Probably not all of them, but I know my first garden was pretty much failure. And I learned things good and hard. I'll get my lessons good and hard, just like my chickens getting wiped out by a fox. I told that story about how they ripped through the chicken wire, and that's little learning things that you're gonna learn them, and they're gonna suck. So that's why it's so important to get started now, so you can go ahead and make your mistakes now instead of. I tell my wife all the time we got chickens, and I can't imagine the people that were sitting around waiting for a chicken to drop an egg, because they were so hungry. And you don't want to be in that position when you need to grow food and be able to get it, you need to be able to do it. Let's go, let's do it. Put the garden in the ground and be sure of yourself and know when to water, know how to, do all that stuff. But you're right. Now is the time. As far as my skill sets are, what everything looks like a metal. I go like, what is the saying? To a carpenter, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, to me, everything needs to be welded. So I build everything out of metal because that's my main trade. That's why my chicken coop's out of metal. You didn't notice.
I was cracking up laughing on your video when you did the tour of the chicken coop. There's a scene in that video where you close the door and it sounds like the inside of a gong going off when that door closes. And I'm just like, this guy freaking welds everything, everything.
I want to show the door better. It's on a magnet. I got a big magnet up there, so it really sucks tight. Because I didn't want to have to latch anything or mess with any kind of little hinges. But I don't know. Where do you want to talk about chickens? Do you want to talk about? I mean, gardening. That's a pretty broad subject.
Well, let's say guy doesn't have a lot of money, right? And that's a classic gardener mistake. Someone entry level starts throwing and buy all these new tools and all this stuff, throw a whole bunch of money at the problem, and they end up with 35 cents worth of tomatoes at the end of the season after hundreds of man hours. So, what is something an easy, and again, there's no easy way out of this, but what is a simple way somebody can at least make that first step towards self sufficiency? What's a good crop to grow that maybe it's calorie dense, doesn't require, a super amount of knowledge, relatively hardy, maybe drought resistant? Is there anything along those
Yeah,
lines?
I would say potatoes, hands down. You can feed a lot of mouths with potatoes, and they're supposed to be. I'm not a big potato farmer, but like I said, I didn't plan on being a farmer at all. Potatoes are cheap to buy. But if we're going to have this food shortage like we have been promised, potatoes, you can start in a barrel. You can put one line of dirt down. your potatoes sprout, you can put another line of dirt. And then you can watch videos on this. There's tons of them. And you can grow a ton of potatoes in a barrel, because every time you cover them up, they grow new potatoes. Every time you cover that vine up, they grow another, and the barrel will be slap full of potatoes. You watch those videos. That's the first thing I would put in the ground, and I would do it tomorrow, because right now is when they need to be planted here anyway. We're a couple weeks late. I don't know about your planting time there.
I'm up here. I'm in zone 6, so we're right around that point where maybe we've had our last frost, maybe not. By the
Okay.
way, that's
Well,
another thing. If you're new to gardening, learn what zone you're in and what it means. That's important.
yeah, at my feed store, they had a list of things that grow good in Louisiana and when to plant them, and what to plant in the spring and what to plant in the fall. You might as well get that list right now and pin down what you want to do. As far as you mentioned tomatoes earlier, I love tomatoes. Don't get me wrong, but they're not calorie dense. It's like water, pretty much. It's a little bit of sugar and water. It's not that, man, I like them, but in order to fill your belly, you're going to need some, hearty potatoes, fat, lard, that kind of stuff. I talked to a guy that lived through hyperinflation, and he said, I said, what'd you eat? What'd you do? He said, we had potatoes, bread, and lard. That was their, protein is going to be really hard to come by in the Thunderdome. So that's why chickens for me are a must. And that's why I've been following this bird flu so close, because I'm really banking on those chicken eggs. Maybe I shouldn't be. I'll have to come up with another source of protein. Otherwise, if you're just getting started, you might build a relationship with a farmer, like right now, like start reaching out and saying, hey, I need someplace I can get eggs and cow and pig and everything else from. Just start building this relationship and make that, and maybe even make an agreement with them, maybe even give them $1,500 for a half a cow. That's what we do. We get a cow delivered, it's put away. I got 500 gallons of diesel to run the generator, and that's done. That's just peace of mind for me, because every time I go to the grocery store, that's another thing. When you do that, when you put a whole cow up, you're only going to pay about $4 to $5 a pound. That's for the ribeyes, the burger, everything. So you come out way ahead instead of going to the store and getting a piece at a time. If you'll buy it in bulk, and you can freeze meat for a long time, years. And we usually go through one in a year, but if you did want to buy more, you could.
Now, we talked mostly about food. Let's branch off a little bit, because you also have a lot of mechanical skills, right? I mean, obviously the welding background is big. And again, I was just blown away by that attachment you built for your tractor, right? Say somebody wants to start developing something along those lines, right? Again, they don't want to throw a whole bunch of money at the problem. They just want to start small. What would you recommend in that case?
As far as plastic mulch?
Just your mechanical prowess, if you will, your ability to build and maintain equipment.
Build
like
things. Well, I mean,
obviously that's a skill set developed over a long career,
well,
not something
it takes some tools, everybody should have a MIG welder. Everybody should have a MIG gun, a little wire welder. You'll use it you're going to have to weld stuff every now and then. Something breaks on your trailer, something, whatever it is. I weld stuff. People come up to me all the time. Can you weld this? And it's real simple, and they could do it if they had the gun. If I had it close, I'd show you how easy it is. People think it's crazy hard, but literally you turn it on, you look at your plate, it'll say it's a 1/4 inch thick. Okay. You adjust the knob to where it says a 1/4 inch thick, and you weld. It's that simple. It's not hard. You can watch my videos and know how to weld as good as people that are doing it, I wouldn't say for a living, but people that are just getting started doing it for a living. I mean, it's not really hard to do that. That's not what I do for a living. That's kind of like hobby shop welding. But a wire welder will get you a long way. A simple oxygen acetylene torch. Most of my stuff is oxygen acetylene, just a normal torch, and a stick welder. And that's normal You can find those at a garage sale. You know, they're not really that expensive considering you can use them for the rest of your life. And you should always you should have that, period. I think you'd be crazy not. It's like having a pocket knife. Every man should have a pocket knife.
You know,
Unless you
you got the hair on the back of my neck standing up because I'm a firefighter, and the thought of everyone and their brother getting an oxygen acetylene torch and keeping it in the garage is making me a little nervous right now. But but you're right. It is a very useful tool. Now, there's something else I wanted to point out because I'm sure a lot of people are probably watching this and thinking this is ridiculous, right? You know, why would I ever want to learn how to grow potatoes and teach myself how to weld? You know, think about this. Think about the kind of raise you got this year. I'm talking to you white collar guys right now. Think about the kind of raise you got this year. And then look at the raise that the truck drivers for Walmart just got. Starting salary for a truck driver at Walmart is now $110,000. And then think about the raise you got. Did your raise keep pace with inflation? Because that truck driver's salary, that sure as heck kept pace with inflation. So this rebalancing of valuations of skill sets is already happening in front of our eyes. And you know, the blue collar guys that are producing things, the small business owners, they're giving themselves wage increases because they have pricing power that you don't have in the labor market. And if you did, your raises would be more keeping pace with inflation, but they're not. And Chris, I know you were talking about that earlier before we started this.
Yeah, well, okay, so we're getting into the Thunderdome is what I like to call it. And we're entering like this. And while we're doing this, everything we're buying is going up. So your money's buying less and you're getting paid the same. It's a bad combination. And I work with a bunch of people that have absolutely got their head in the sand. Not so much the people around me because I'm all the time making noise, but they're not really noticing it. They just gripe about it. Instead of griping about it, you need to be going to your whoever you're working for and making noise about it to them right now. Like it should have been done months ago. You can show them the CPI. You can show them. You can prove it on paper. You know what's going on. Like for instance, a welding rod that I use every day is 75 cents a piece now. That's ridiculous, and I go through them, a lot of them, and that's just one thing. Fuel. I'm driving 100 miles to work, so I'm going through about $170 worth of fuel every other day. You know, that's really, you know, and when you start talking to these people, they'll be like, oh yeah, I understand things are going up. And then they'll start to realize, wow, you know, I'm going to have to pay this guy more because they're going to have to pay me more. I'm not going to go backwards. And that's what was starting to happen. And they had to come off some money to pay me. And if they're good people and they're watching their bottom line, most of these businessmen are watching their bottom line, or they don't have one for very long. They will already be ahead of you. They will already be getting more money. And if that's the case, and you're not making noise, they're going to be making more money, and you're not going to get any because you've got to make noise. You know what I'm saying? These companies are already raising their rates, and the employees are not saying anything. You need to start saying something, and you can't just be a warm body. You need to be somebody that really brings value to the company and say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing for you. You're going to have to make it right. I'm trading my time for money. You know, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and you're right. It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease, right? You got to make that noise. You got to demand that raise. You got to exercise your pricing power because nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah, but don't go in and say, I deserve a raise because of this.
You could try that, and it's not going to go well. But
no, please don't do that. Go in and say, look, guys, this is what's going on. This is what I'm buying. It's going up, and we need to address this. You know, what do you have to say? And they'll, you know, they'll either say, not at this time, and you can hopefully you have a plan B. If you're a welder and you've got a skill, then you can probably go anywhere and work. You know, that's the trade-off. You said it in the beginning of this video, we're starting to come back to reality where trades and people that actually produce are starting to be in more demand. And there's less people that produce. There really is. There's a lot of people that most of the people I went to school with got a college degree, and I don't know of any of them that make more than I do. I'm sure there's some doctors and lawyers, but it's coming back to the tradesmen. And I built a welding channel to try to get people into welding and trades, and try to get them going. And it's really hard to reach the young guys. So if you know some young guys, share this video with them, because this is really, in my opinion, a prime opportunity to get onto a trade and be able to put food on the table during hyperinflation. That's possible. I don't know if anybody's going to do good. It's going to be who does the less bad.
I mean, the producers do well. We've seen it in Weimar, Germany, and we've seen it in some of the other cases of hyperinflation. The business owners, the farmers, the landowners, they did very well. Their debt was whittled down, and they were able to raise the price of what they produced, and they ended up coming out of it on top. So it is possible. It's hard, very hard, but it's possible. And
Right.
nobody can say they didn't see it coming. Not if they're watching my channel or yours, Chris.
Yeah, or Ninja, or any
Or
of us.
Ninja. Yep. Chris, I want to thank you for coming out and for talking to us. And also, on a personal note, thank you for all the tips you've been giving me on my chicken coop. We will have more on that in the coming days. His channel is Financial Fitness. I will put a link down in the description below, and you can check that out and subscribe if you're not already. And any final words, Chris?
No, man, just I hope y'all have an awesome day. I know that. Try to end on a positive note. At the end of these talks, it seems so doom and gloom. And when we get to the bottom, the people that were paying attention, that took time to hedge with precious metals, and they are in the right places at the right time in the biggest wealth transfer in the history of mankind, they're going to do well after this. And I'm glad to be here, brother. It's good to know you.
One final note for me. There are hard times coming, but you know what? They're not here yet. So stop and smell the roses. Enjoy these days. Make the most of them. Till next time, live small and dream big.